Welcome in, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me today and hope that you guys are doing well. So, today we're going to talk about the big news that I'm sure everyone has heard by now. We're going to talk about what we saw yesterday. America attacks Venezuela. They capture the president of Venezuela and his wife, Nicolas Maduro. So we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Um, First, we're going to take a look at some content about the attack and the capture of Maduro. And then I'm going to give just my thoughts and opinions about the situation. So, a lot of good stuff to talk about. Before we jump into all of that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So, if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. Also, feel free to hit the like button and make some comments about your thoughts about these big news that happened. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into America attacks Venezuela.
This is CNN Breaking News. Welcome to CNN. I'm Victor Blackwell in Atlanta. The breaking news this morning, President Trump says the U.S. carried out large-scale strikes on Venezuela overnight. He says its president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, Celia Flores, have been captured and flown out of the country. Attorney General Pam Bondi says both of them have been indicted and in a social media post says that they will, quote, soon face the full wrath of American justice. The Venezuelan vice president says that she has no idea where Maduro and the first lady are.
Faced with this brutal situation and this brutal attack, we do not know the whereabouts of President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores. We demand immediate proof of life from the government of President Donald Trump, proof of life for President Maduro and the First Lady.
President Trump says that he'll address the nation on the strikes from Mar-a-Lago later this morning. Right now, it's quiet in the capital of Caracas just hours after the strikes, but earlier, explosions rocked Venezuela, knocked out power, and sent people running outside. And this strike was at La Carlota Air Base in Caracas.
Of Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima earlier. He was wearing the sweatsuit, the blinders, the noise insulating headphones. We now just have a video of Maduro inside U.S. custody. I want everyone to just stop and watch that for a moment.
Good night. Happy New Year.
I mean, Rahm Emanuel, as you're watching this video where Maduro is being transported through, you can see the DEA carpet that he's walking across, going very slowly. He seems to say something, it's not totally clear what. And a little bit of a smile almost at one point as he's walking. Rahm Emanuel, what do you see in this?
Your guess, I got to be honest, Caitlin, your guess is as good as mine. I think this is an attempt by the United States to project, here's what we've done to this leader. I think what you're looking at is a guy who's basically being used in this moment to send a message to the American people, and also not only the American people, the worldwide, that if the United States wants to act, we can act, and we can literally go into a country, take somebody out in that effort. So I think it was basically...
I mean, I think he's saying Happy New Year there at the end.
Overnight, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife touching down on U.S. soil surrounded by federal agents. ABC News obtaining these images showing the ousted leader handcuffed on the tarmac in New York, dressed in a blue sweatshirt, sandals, and a black beanie flanked by DEA agents. just hours after being captured and removed by American forces. It capped off a dramatic military operation that ended with President Trump declaring the U.S. will now run Venezuela and seize control of its oil reserves, vowing to take a, quote, tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years.
The president offered few details on how exactly the U.S. will take charge, telling Arcelina Wang the team behind him, key members of his cabinet, will take the lead.
It's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro.
But the president, who campaigned on keeping America out of foreign conflict, did not rule out sending in U.S. troops.
We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain.
The capture, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, came after months of planning, gathering intelligence to understand how Maduro moved, from how he lived to what he wore and ate. The president giving the green light at 10:46 p.m. Eastern on Friday, with this message to U.S. forces and intel agencies: good luck and Godspeed.
We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong.
More than 150 U.S. aircrafts launching from 20 different bases across the Western Hemisphere under the cover of darkness. The president and his national security team watching from Mar-a-Lago. Videos circulating online showing explosions near a Venezuelan military base and port, as U.S. helicopters arrived in Caracas around 2 a.m. local time Saturday morning, where they faced heavy gunfire. The president says Maduro tried to get to a safe room.
He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is, all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast.
U.S. forces capturing Maduro and his wife from his own country, taken to the USS Iwo Jima. President Trump posting this picture of Maduro on board.
Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man.
Back home, members of Congress caught off guard, only notified after the operation began. Some this morning questioning the legality. But President Trump standing by the operation, saying Maduro's capture should serve as a warning to the rest of the world.
But I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives.
President Trump says no American lives were lost. The president also says that Maduro's vice president will now serve as the country's interim leader. But again, there are still these big questions on what exactly comes next, including how the U.S. plans to take control of Venezuela and whether or not we will see American troops on the ground, Janae.
So many questions still remaining.
All right, guys. So we just saw pretty much all the relevant information and news, or the main parts of it with regards to this situation. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So the way I feel about this situation is that as soon as I start to like America a lot and have high opinions of it, which I do. I like a lot of things about America. That's why I live here. But, it's moment like this that just kind of change my feeling about some actions that the American government takes. I definitely believe that America should be the leader in the world. It's the wealthiest country in the world. It's the most impressive country in the world. But actions like this just honestly rub me the wrong way. And I think they are very wrong. Um, attacking another country without any kind of authorization from Congress um, is just wrong, in my opinion. I think that's illegal, and I just don't think it's the right standard operating procedure that America should be engaged in. I know there's a lot of bad actors out there in the world, a lot of dictators, a lot of people in other countries causing problems. I don't live in Venezuela. I don't follow Venezuela. So I can't speak from personal experience. I mean, I know there's a lot of news out there about Maduro and the Venezuelan government being bad and authoritarian. Um, but, in my opinion, it's up to the Venezuelan people to decide who they want their president to be, their leader to be. Um, However much America doesn't like another president, another leader, um, I don't think it's America's place to replace the leaders and presidents of other countries. I don't think it's America's place to rebuild the governments of other countries. Um, However bad and unlikable the American government thinks that they are, I just think that's an unethical and immoral way for a country to conduct its business. Um, and not only that, again, um, from a legal perspective, just attacking another country like that and capturing their president um, is just honestly rubs me the wrong way. It's unethical, it's immoral, it's illegal, and it's honestly what pisses me off about American foreign policy. All right, so just from a legal perspective, um, this action that was taken, it is a violation of international law. So under the United Nations Charter, the use of force against a sovereign state is illegal unless authorized by the UN Security Council, conducted in self defense, or done with the host nation's consent. And a lot of experts note that none of these conditions were met. There was no UN approval, and drug trafficking does not typically meet the international standard for an armed attack, justifying military self defense. So, this is definitely viewed as violation of international law. Also, there are constitutional violations. So the argument is that the operation was an unauthorized act of war, and Article 1, Section 8 of the US Constitution grants Congress the power to declare war. But because Congress did not authorize the use of force or the specific mission to capture President Nicolas Maduro, critics assert that President Trump exceeded his executive authority. So, those are really the main arguments that this action was illegal, but Trump's administration is going to have other arguments, and they're going to treat this not as an attack, like a military attack. They're just going to treat it like kind of like a specific operation or mission. So that's usually what happens in situations like this, but this just definitely feels wrong. Um, and it feels like the wrong way to conduct foreign policy. So, a lot of analysts are saying that this attack and capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro really doesn't have much to do with the charges that were brought against him, which were drug trafficking and terrorism. That the real goal is to get access to the oil that Venezuela has and have control over the oil fields and increase the supply of oil, which would decrease the price of oil in the world, which would benefit the United States. So, honestly, again, that's kind of what bothers me about some actions that the American government takes with regards to foreign policy. Um, it seems like they don't have good intentions and that they're not sincere. Like in this situation, um, they're saying they want a regime change in Venezuela and to stop drug trafficking and things like that. But that's not their sincere intention. The sincere intention, like a lot of analysts have said, is to get access to the oil fields and increase oil supply, which would decrease the price of oil. So that's just kind of what bothers me about these actions that America takes in other countries. It just feels evil and wrong and just feels like it just brings a lot of negative feelings towards America and the world. And I just don't think it's necessary. So, this is, it seems like just standard operating procedures. So, some other major military invasions and conflicts that the US um, executed was, we all know about Afghanistan, um, where, following the 9/11 attacks, the US led an invasion to oust the Taliban and dismantle Al Qaeda. And in 2021, the US military formally withdrew from there. So that was a disaster there, and invading, attacking Afghanistan, and at the end they just withdraw, and the Taliban is back in power. In Iraq, the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003 to topple Saddam Hussein, and the major combat ended in 2011. Forces returned in 2014 under another operation. So that again was presented as a regime change. They wanted Saddam Hussein out, but really they wanted access to oil in Iraq. So very similar to the Venezuela situation. And in earlier this year, the U.S. executed a military attack in Iran, which targeted some nuclear sites there. So that's kind of what bothers me again. I know there's bad actors out there. I know United States has to look out for its own interests, but some of these attacks, like the one in Venezuela and some of these other ones, I just think it's the wrong way to conduct business. I don't think it's going to benefit the United States and America in the long run. It just brings negative views of America in the world. And, America, I don't think it's going to change its standard operating procedure. America wants to be the biggest empire in the world and wants to be the most dominant country in the world. They're not going to care about my feelings or your feelings, but I just think in the long run, it's in America's interest to not execute these attacks like this. I think there's a more just and moral and legal way to do these types of things. So, what's going to happen next in Venezuela is some other leader or leaders, are they going to become the new president and leaders of the country? Um, this just causes a lot of destabilization in Venezuela and in the Western Hemisphere as a whole. Um, who knows what's going to happen with the actual court case against Maduro? Is he going to actually be in jail? How long is it going to take? Is he going to be back in Venezuela? What does Venezuela's future look like? So I just think by resolving this one issue, taking Maduro out of power, the U.S. has just opened up a whole can of worms for the coming months and years that we don't have, any answers to. So just in the long run, I'm not sure how beneficial this military action is going to end up being, and it just causes a little more destabilization in the world. President Trump, he said that, he specifically said that he wasn't going to do these types of things, that, he's going to put America first, that he's not interested in nation building of other countries, that he's not interested in changing their governments, that America is not the world's policeman. So, which, I like a lot of that stuff that he said, but then in his actions with this situation in Venezuela, his actions are contradicting what he was saying. So we'll see what happens in this situation. Definitely the court case against Maduro is going to be must watch TV to see what happens, to see what he looks like, to see how things unfold. Um, so, a lot of stuff to be determined going forward. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to share for now with regards to this situation, the American attack on Venezuela and capture of Nicolas Maduro. I hope you guys got some value out of this content and like the video. If you did, again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that like button, make some comments about what you think about the whole situation, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.